So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Yvonne shared, my name is Michelle, and I am the Peterborough Immigration Partnership Officer, and I am pleased to share with you the findings from the 2023 Survey of Immigrant Needs. So let me just share my screen here. Okay. Great. So please bear with me while you have to listen to my voice for the next 20 minutes. But we'd like to start the presentation with a refresher on the PIP Vision, as well as the goals outlined in the 2022 to 2025 PIP Strategic Plan. So the Peterborough Immigration Partnership, otherwise known as PIP, envisions a community where the meaningful economic, social and cultural integration of newcomers ensures a prosperous and inclusive community for all. We provide community leadership to ensure immigrants and refugees meaningful integration in a welcoming community. So the following are the three strategic priorities or goals of the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan. Number one is we want to strengthen collaboration. So by focusing on building a strong partnership structure with engaged partners, we can ensure that we are responsive, effective, and able to make a positive impact. Second is we aim to build community awareness and capacity. To better support newcomers in meaningful ways, we will build broader community awareness that celebrates and acknowledges the important role newcomers play in creating a vibrant community. We will also provide strategies and tools to organizations and businesses so that they have the capacity to include and support newcomers. And third, we will advocate for change. So while we recognize that a lot can be done on the local and community level to support newcomers, we also know that more systemic change is needed. So we will use our voice to speak to issues that impact newcomers and seek to influence policies that lead to more inclusive and sustainable communities. Okay, so one way in which we're trying to achieve the priorities outlined in the strategic plan is by committing to conducting a biannual survey to learn more about the needs of newcomers in Peterborough and to share the data collected with partners in the wider community. And as seen here, the findings from the 2021 needs assessment can be found through this link. However, the presentation today will be focusing on the findings from the 2023 survey, where we analyzed responses from over 200 immigrants and refugees who live in the Peterborough region. So data was collected using Checkmarket, which is an online survey platform. We opened the survey on January 23rd and closed it on February 8th. We shared the survey through email, the NCC website, social media, emails to PIP members, and by promoting ad tables at the Peterborough Public Library. To encourage participation, respondents were offered an incentive of a $10 grocery gift card to be mailed to them after they completed the survey. Participants had the option of completing the survey online in English, Arabic, and Spanish, with most participants responding in English and some in Arabic and Spanish. Differences were typically noted when there was less than 5% likelihood of two responses being similar, and most of the participants live in the city of Peterborough. So today, in the survey findings, we will be looking at immigrants and refugees' immigration pathways, their demographic information, their housing and living patterns, education, employment and household income, language skills, their use of community services, their sense of belonging in the community, including their social networks, and the challenges and supports that they face in the last 2 years. So starting with immigration status, most participants have lived in Canada for less than 1 year or from 1 to 5 years. Most participants have arrived in Canada through family category immigration or having international student visas, followed by economic category immigration, which may include individuals who arrived via express entry, the skilled workers program, or the provincial nominee program. And after arriving in Canada, participants were most likely to land in Peterborough and to stay there. However, temporary residents were more likely to be unsure whether they wanted to stay either in Canada or this region specifically. So you can just see here that if they had arrived less than 1 year, then it was likely that they had landed in Peterborough then. And if you follow the diagonal here, the pattern is the same across 1 to 5 years. 6 to 10 years, and 10 years or more. And while most people want to stay in Canada, there's still a significant percentage that are unsure, and most of them are the temporary residents that I had mentioned earlier. Okay. In terms of demographic information, the majority of the participants identified as Middle Eastern, South Asian, followed by Southeast Asian, and white as the next largest groups. There were 51 countries that were represented by participants' countries of birth. The top countries include India, the Philippines, and Syria. But if you look at the word cloud, all of the other countries are listed as well. And over 3/4 of the participants were engaged with the faith community. 35% of those were a member of the Christian faith, and 26% were of the Muslim faith. In terms of gender identification, 53% of participants identified as a woman and 44% identified as a man, with 2% choosing not to answer. And approximately 6% of participants identified as a member of the Two-Spirit LGBTQ plus community, with 10% preferring not to answer. 73% of participants were between 25 to 64 years old. For housing and living patterns, most participants currently rent their homes, while 28% are homeowners. If you look at the pie chart there, most participants noted that their current housing was suitable and affordable for them. We define suitable as having enough bedrooms for the size and makeup of one's household, while the definition of affordable housing is that it costs less than 30% of one's household income. So while looking at individuals' immigration pathways, government-assisted refugees were more likely than participants from other pathways to report that they were living with 3 or more generations in the same household, while family class immigrants were more likely to live with their parents, while temporary residents were more likely to live with their peers. Government-assisted refugees, or GARs, were more likely to report that housing was unaffordable, while economic and family category immigrants were more likely to find the housing affordable, and temporary residents gave mixed responses. The reasons that they shared for the lack of affordability of housing often related to the high cost of rent, utilities, and the hardship that was posed by their under or unemployment. Okay. So in terms of their education, participants were highly educated, with 74% having completed their post-secondary education, and the majority of participants had attained a bachelor's degree. Of those who were employed, 69% reported that they were currently in a job that they would consider is at the same level as their skills and experience. 32% of participants reported that they were employed full-time and 22% part-time. 39% reported that they were not employed, and 7% were self-employed. So while most people were employed, a high percentage of participants, 44%, were actually living below the 2021 market basket measure of $45,000 and $776. And Statistics Canada defines the market basket measure as a measure of poverty that is based on the cost of a specific basket of goods and services that provide a modest basic standard of living. So this basket can include the cost of food, clothing, shelter, transportation, and other items for one reference family. And then when we look further into the sector of employment of the respondents, the majority of people had worked in education, law, and social and community or government service occupations, followed by sales and services, and then business, finance, and administration occupations. Of those who were unemployed and seeking employment, 26% reported looking for work in business, finance, and administration occupations, followed by health, and then in sales and service occupations. Okay, moving on to language, participants identified 43 different first languages. If you look at the word cloud, English does appear the most, but there was still a variety of other languages that people listed as the first language, which is defined as the language that they first learned and still understand. And regarding their English ability, most participants rated their English speaking, reading, and writing abilities quite highly, with over 70% rating themselves as good or excellent. Okay. For use of community services, participants most frequently use health services, education services, English language learning programs, and employment or skills training programs. Participants were most likely to have learned about these services through a friend or family member, through a settlement worker at the NCC, or through social media or websites. When looking at respondents from different immigration pathways, government-assisted refugees were significantly more likely to use interpretation services and English language learning programs than other immigrant groups, while temporary residents were the least likely to access settlement services. So overall, participants did have positive experiences while accessing community services in Peterborough when they did access them. As you can see in the chart there, the positive experiences are recorded in green, and those who didn't access the services are seen in red. And the reasons that they listed for not using the services was related to not knowing about the service. So over 60% of participants or their family members were engaged in a local group, sports, or recreational organization. Participants who identified as white were more likely than those from other racial or ethnic cultural groups to engage in the community. But despite the varying levels of engagement, participants had a strong or very strong sense of belonging and felt that Peterborough was truly their home. And for the purposes of the survey, the sense of belonging refers to how much someone feels accepted and valued by others around them. So despite most participants' generally positive experiences accessing services and their strong sense of belonging in Peterborough, they still face some challenges with their integration in the community. As 26% of participants reported experiencing discrimination in Peterborough in the last 12 months, those participants were more likely to have felt isolated or alone in the last 12 months and to express a weak or very weak sense of belonging in Peterborough. And when asked to elaborate, participants indicated that they experienced discrimination mostly related to their skin color, their accent, language, race, or ethnicity. And approximately half of the situations in which they experienced discrimination occurred in a public space, so on the streets, at squares, in parks, etc., and was followed by discrimination experience at work or when applying to a job or for a promotion. In addition to reporting some experience of discrimination, over 30% of participants indicated that they face issues when trying to find and retain employment, followed by difficulty finding affordable housing, accessing healthcare, and making friends or social connections. Nonetheless, in the last 12 months, when they were able to, participants found that making friends, having access to technology and the internet to connect with others, and the NCC supported them to overcome challenges. We also asked them what could be better done to support immigrants and refugees moving forward, and the following emerge as the top 3 priorities, which include the provision of more affordable housing options, actions to connect immigrants and refugees with others in the community, and working with employers to hire and integrate newcomers in the workforce. To also better understand the value that participants attributed to immigrants and immigration to Peterborough, we asked them to respond to the prompt, we should welcome immigrants and refugees to Peterborough because, and then we analyzed the responses and grouped them by the following themes, starting with the most frequently commented. They contribute to regional growth. So immigrants and refugees have skills and resources to offer and can boost economic development and build population size. One of the quotes that they shared was, they bring diversity, experiences from other countries that will enrich our region, a great work ethic, and ready to contribute to the regions and Canada's economic growth. Second, they realized that the community has a responsibility and the capacity to ensure everyone's welfare and well-being. So one person shared that we need them in our community and as much as they need us. Whether immigrant or refugee, we have a lot to offer and contribute. Third, they enrich our community by making it more diverse and multicultural. So they bring a wealth of experience, culture, and history that is valuable for any community to grow in a positive way. Fourth, they recognize that Peterborough is a welcoming community that can accommodate people's needs. So they shared that it is a place that offers us the possibility to make a new life, and that Peterborough is a small city in which you can get help. It is not too busy. Finally, it is a part of our Canadian identity and values. So people have stated that they are the reason why Canada is the way it is today, and that it is a land of immigrants and a land of freedom. We also asked participants how we can better welcome and support immigrants and refugees in Peterborough. And here are the following themes that we came out with after analyzing their responses. The first is to better facilitate their access to meaningful employment and workplace integration, which is a theme that we've been mentioning many times in this presentation. And it includes helping them to find stable full-time jobs, to provide workplace-related training and education, and to demonstrate the economic and social impact of hiring immigrants and refugees. Second is to create spaces and opportunities to strengthen social and cultural connections with a focus on mental health supports. And this is necessary to reduce their loneliness and isolation in a new community, and to address racism and discrimination against immigrants and refugees. Third, we need to provide ongoing provision and promotion of community services for all categories of immigrants and refugees. So this may include settlement services, language training, employment counseling, and public transportation. And finally, we need to develop local infrastructure and coordinate between levels of government to address systemic issues that affect immigrants and refugees' integration into the community. And this is necessary to provide more affordable housing, to reduce poverty, to improve public perceptions of safety, and to enhance food security. So just to select one of the comments that was shared in the survey, someone said that these supports can include providing language and cultural classes for immigrants and refugees, helping to connect them to educational and employment opportunities, and creating community building programs that help to foster connections and collaborations between native-born residents and newcomers. So the key takeaways is that survey participants do believe that immigration is valuable and necessary for the Peterborough community. They are ready to contribute and to make Peterborough their home. However, immigrants and refugees still substantial proportions still continue to face challenges with finding work, accessing housing, and forming friendships or connections. To better support immigrants and refugees moving forward, more supports are needed regarding the provision of more affordable housing, actions to connect immigrants and refugees with others in the community, and working with employers to hire and integrate newcomers in the workforce. Some other things to mention is that in order to boost retention of newcomers in Peterborough, we also need to focus on understanding and meeting the needs of temporary residents, including international students and immigrants on work visas, since they are more likely to be unsure whether they want to stay, whether in Canada or the region, and that they're more likely to feel isolated in the community. So this might include promoting the availability of services and supports, for example. And then overall, immigration will continue to be one of the most significant ways that we can address aging populations and labor shortages, while increasing diversity and promoting economic growth, both on the national level and regional level. So it is important to continue assessing and adapting to the needs of newcomers that are already living in Peterborough, to better understand how we can address the gaps in our existing services, and to develop more programs and policies that will more effectively and meaningfully facilitate their inclusion and integration into the community. Okay, thank you for listening, and I hope that you will read the full report, which will be available next week. And now we will open the floor up for questions and discussion.